1943. War rages across Europe. In the neutral confines of Switzerland, chemist Albert Hofmann is hard at work at the Sandoz Pharmaceutical Company's Basel laboratory. While searching for a cure for migraine headaches, Hofmann accidentally ingests a minute amount of an experimental substance that would change both his life and the world, LSD 25. Many would come to view it as a spiritual antidote to the atom bomb. Before the decade is over, Sandoz has sent Hofmann's discovery to researchers and psychiatrists all over the world for testing. Research projects spring up in such places as Canada, the US, England and Czechoslovakia.
At the end of the synthesis, I got in a very strange psychic situation. A kind of dream world appeared, a feeling of oneness with the world, a very strange experience which reminded me to some experience I had in childhood. Being a cautious man, and I thought I would start with the smallest quantity, which even it could have any effect. Namely, I started with 0.25 milligram, and had the intention then to increase the dosage, but then to see if something would happen. But this very small dose, the first dose of my experiments I planned, was very, very strong.
After some hours, when I was laying in the bed, I came back. I came back for a foreign, quite foreign existence to new life. I saw, certainly, I realized how wonderful our earth is. I felt newborn, to be newborn, and even the next day when I went in the garden, the world was new.
Als ich jenes Erlebnis hatte, bei dem ich den Stoff, der als LSD bekannt geworden ist, entdeckt habe, bei jenem Erlebnis, das versuchte ich mir dann nachträglich irgendwie zu deuten. Wie hat man das zu erklären? Beim LSD-Erlebnis gerät man plötzlich in eine andere Wirklichkeit. Man erlebt eine vollkommen andere Wirklichkeit, die einem so real und vielleicht noch wirklicher erscheint als die gewöhnliche Alltagswirklichkeit. Und bis dahin hatte ich immer geglaubt, es gibt nur eine Wirklichkeit, die Alltagswirklichkeit. Und plötzlich erlebte ich nun eine andere Wirklichkeit. Und da versuchte ich mir nun rein wissenschaftlich einen Vers dazu zu machen. Wie kommt es, dass man keine andere Wirklichkeit erlebt. Und da habe ich mir gesagt, damit Wirklichkeit entsteht, braucht es ja irgendwann mal jemand, der die Wirklichkeit erlebt und eine Wirklichkeit, sonst kommt ja das nicht zustande. Also es braucht ein Subjekt, das erlebt, und es braucht etwas, das erlebt wird. Und ich nehme da die Metapher des Fernsehens. Damit ein Bild entsteht, braucht es einmal einen Sender. Und es braucht einen Empfänger. Und es braucht die Antennen. Nun, bei der Bildung der Wirklichkeit, was wir als Wirklichkeit bezeichnen, funktioniert die Außenwelt, die materielle Welt, als Sender. Und die Antennen, das sind unsere Sinnesorgane. Und der Bildschirm sozusagen ist dann eben das Bewusstsein, wo die Impulse, die von draußen reinkommen, dann transformiert werden in ein lebendiges Bild der Außenwelt.
The most important what I gained from my LSD experience was the insight that which commonly is believed to be ethereality is not something fixed but rather ambiguous. I experienced another reality under LSD, and before I had always thought there is only one reality, a true reality, but then I realized there are other dimensions of reality.
I think there's a possibility to have a psychedelic experience is inborn. These psychedelics, very similar compounds are in our brain. And all the compounds which you find in the plant kingdom, only the psychedelics are so closely related chemically to these brain factors which we already have. We speak about the paradise of childhood. When I have the vision and a beautiful experience as a child, it is no wonder, because we have these compounds already in our brain. Discovered LSD, it was believed it was a product of laboratory. And then we discovered that these compounds had existed already for thousands of years in the plant kingdom.
Not exactly LSD, but practically. We should have a kind of meditation centers where there would be the right conditions, the right dosages, all these factors which must be known are fulfilled. I was walking in a beautiful May morning. Suddenly, I stopped and I had the feeling everything had changed. The wood was beautiful, beautiful green, and I had the feeling that I saw now the wood as it really is. And I had the feeling I would be included by it. I had a feeling of happiness I had never had before. And this gave me the security that if you have open eyes, you may see the world in a different way. I mean, you see it as it really is. Wonderful. It's very important that one is prepared for the use of psychedelics. It is not just fun, it is a very serious experiment.
Obviously a genius who has penetrated to the core of reality and has both a humble sense of self. Is not a self-important man, but he's a. But I think he really feels very heartfully how deeply he is connected with millions of people around the world, how his important discoveries have benefited millions. And so it's extraordinary. I regard him almost like a Buddha. You know, he doesn't think of himself so much like that, but because of his being open to this discovery, to, as he put it, let LSD speak to him. I think it's a molecule with miracle written all over it. Since he synthesized it in '38, and it wasn't until the height of the war that LSD spoke to him again and said, you need to reconnect with this. And that was I think the real miracle, and it was in the light of all the horrors of the 20th century. I really feel in my painting it shows this alchemical angel crying tears, and so this is what I think LSD is. It's the angel tears cried for the suffering of humanity and to help stop our self-destruction. It's really a medicine to wake us up to our own potential. And so Dr. Hofmann is the midwife, or as we call him, Saint Albert, you know. Saint Albert and the LSD revolution. It couldn't have happened through any other person. He had been a mystic since he was a child, really. And this reconnected him, I think, so strongly with his mystic roots. So I love his statement that any natural scientist who is not a mystic is not a natural scientist.
Well, tell me.
Well, I just couldn't. I couldn't possibly tell you. It's here. Can't you feel it? This whole room, this everything is in color, and I can feel the air. I can see it. I can see all the molecules. I'm part of it. Can't you see it?
I'm trying.
Oh, it's just like you're released, or you're free, or I don't know how I can tell you. I wish I could talk in Technicolor, or let you see. Did you say you can see it?
No, I can't quite see it. Tell me about it.
I can't tell you about it. If you can't see it, then you'll just never know it. I feel sorry for you.
Now, when you look at your hands, do as I do. Close your eyes and just concentrate on your hands. Is there any difference in its weight, in its substance?
This one seems heavier.
The left one seems heavier?
Yeah, seems more positive. I feel these lovely colors vibrating all over me. Oh, it's lovely.
Any lines?
Oh.
Any forms?
Just like the shimmering water, you know.
You can put your hand down now. Come on, describe it. You feel happy now? Do you feel happy?
Yes.
Oh, you must be, because you have tears in your eyes.
Oh.
Is that a beautiful experience, would you say?
I would say yes.
Describe it again.
Oh, I don't know. It's just giving and...
You're doing fine. Just try to describe it.
Oh, you don't know. You want to give yourself... You want to give yourself as much as you can. I feel very benevolent. I mean, I feel as though I have no enemies in the world, and this is very lovely. Oh, I never experienced anything like that. It's marvelous.
On the whole, do you feel happy, or do you feel...
I feel so happy.
These experiments have helped us to experience something of how these ill people perceive the world, its dimensions of time, space, and color. Myself, these experiences have been most strange, most awesome, and in their own way, amongst the most beautiful in my life. A sense of special significance began to invest everything. Everything was brilliantly sharp and significant. If I fixed my attention on a flower, I felt that I could spend all day in contemplating it. Phrases such as, "I've seen with the eye of the world," "the eye of the newborn and the new dead," sprang to my tongue, apparently without construction. A plain wooden chair was invested with a chairiness no chair had ever for me before.
One begins to see significance in things that you didn't see before. Many people become aware of a quite different world.
Now, so far, are these visual things the only effects you find?
No.
What other effects?
It's all to do with colour, it's all to do with round, with shape. Everything's colour. Everything, you know, is... Oh, it must be to do with orange. Not only with orange, but, oh. I haven't seen colour. I've lived in a monochromatic world. I can't use colour. I can do everything.
almost impossible, of course, as all the patients say, to describe it. You can only say it isn't, it isn't, it isn't. Trying to tell people what it is.
How do you mean that?
Well, I mean that there are the colors and the beauties, the designs, the beautiful way things appear. People themselves, dull people that I thought dull, appear fascinating, interesting, mysterious, wonderful. But that's only the beginning. A man was saying it this afternoon who was taking it. Suddenly you notice that there aren't these separations, that we're not on a separate island shouting across to somebody else and trying to hear what they're saying and misunderstanding. You know, you use the word yourself, empathy. This thing's flowing underneath. We're parts of a single continent. It meets underneath the water. And with that goes such delight, the sober certainty of waking bliss.
Their problems ranged from abstract scientific equations to practical architecture and furniture designs.
We gave them a psychedelic, we gave them some hours to just relax and be with themselves, and then we got them up and said, it's time to work on your problems, and they dove in.
I took a trip through architectural history and visited and saw various cities and places.
Each subject claimed that with focus and guidance, LSD allowed them to approach their problem with a fresh perspective, or instilled them with the freedom to explore ideas more openly. The result?
Patents issued, products built, theories extended and improved, papers published, and more importantly, for many weeks thereafter, according to the scientists, their overall level of creativity was up.
Dr. Kary Mullis, I now ask you to receive the Nobel Prize from the hands of His Majesty the King.
Biogeneticist Dr. Kary Mullis had won the Nobel Prize for inventing PCR, a revolutionary technique for multiplying tiny amounts of DNA for use in genetic research. A creative breakthrough he claims came from psychedelic drug use.
I don't do experiments often, in big things like, what would if I had not taken LSD ever? Would I have still invented PCR? I don't know. I doubt it. I seriously doubt it.
It's not that psychedelics manufacture wonderment or that they can automatically make us more imaginative beings, but what psychedelics do is pull us so radically out of our comfort zones. They decondition our thinking. They thrust us out of everything we thought we knew about the world in order to see things as if for the first time and form new synaptic connections. They change our context. That's why people take psychedelics and they say, take a trip. Right? Take a trip. Well, look at the physical equivalent of that. Taking a trip means physically go somewhere you've never been before where no one knows your name, see the world differently, and jump into a new culture. I think it has to do with forcing yourself to gain different perspectives on how you see reality. Reality is made of language, and so how you map your reality really matters. The words you use to map your reality. And so I think that what psychedelics do is, I think they're tools. That's what I think, which is very different from just fully advocating their use. I think that they're tools that need to be treated with respect.
Studies. I started volunteering in the psychiatric clinic. I went to study medicine because of reading Freud, and so I started working in psychiatry before I actually graduated. And my preceptor, who got this sample from Sandoz, was very interested in LSD but didn't have enough time. So he used us to sit with people. So I was sitting with people actually since 1954. But initially they didn't allow students to have. I had to wait for my graduation, and one of the first things I did in '56 was actually to volunteer for an LSD session.
And how was that experience?
Well, it was something that changed my life professionally, personally. My preceptor, who was what we call a docent in Prague, with a degree under the professor, docent Robíček, he was very interested in electroencephalography. And at the time when the experiments were happening, he was particularly interested in a particular method which was called driving the brain waves, or entraining the brain waves, which was exposing people to a powerful stroboscopic light with different frequencies, and studying the electroencephalogram, whether the brain waves in the corresponding part of the brain, which would be the suboccipital for the optical stimulation, would pick up the frequency that you are feeding in, if you can drive them, train them, and so on. So one of the conditions for me to get LSD, I would agree to have the EEG before, during, and after, and also part of it was the experiment of being exposed to very powerful stroboscopic light. So I had a session, which was fascinating at the beginning. It was incredible display of colors, kaleidoscopic displays. It was like the world of Islam, the arabesques. I felt like was in Granada at one point, and so on. And then it opened up, and I explored some of my past, from my childhood, and so on. And so it was interesting in itself, but then came the experiment with the stroboscope that just took it to a completely different level. It was between the third and the fourth hour when the research assistant came, and it was time, to do the experiment. So she took me to the small cell. There was a couch. I lay down. She pasted the electrodes on my head, and then brought this giant strobe and asked me to close my eyes, and she sort of turned it on, and even with my eyes closed I saw light, intensity of brightness that I had never seen in my life, and I even couldn't imagine existed. It was like, when you read mystical literature and they talk about light that was like millions of suns, or I thought that it was like what it must have been like in Hiroshima. I mean, it was that intensity. And my consciousness was catapulted out of my body, and I lost connection with the research assistant, with the clinic, with Prague, with the planet. And I had this amazing experience of my consciousness just embracing everything, becoming everything there was. And then as I was coming down, I actually was in the physical universe, or actually became the physical universe somehow. I had the feeling I had been back to Big Bang, and there were experiences that I didn't have names for, but later when I read about the black holes, white holes, I mean, it was something in that category, pulsars, amazing cosmic experience. So I came down very, very impressed, and it just generated this lifetime interest in these non-ordinary states. So in the last over 50 years, I have really done very little professionally that wouldn't involve these non-ordinary states. This became my vocation, my profession, my passion.
We are somehow told we are infantilized. We're told, you can wander around within the sanctioned playpen of ordinary consciousness, and we have some intoxicants over here if you want to mess yourself up. We've got some scotch here and some tobacco and red meat and some sugar and a little TV and so forth and so on. But these boundary dissolving hallucinogens that give you a sense of unity with your fellow man and nature are somehow forbidden. This is an outrage. It's a sign of cultural immaturity, and the fact that we tolerate it is a sign that we are living in a society as oppressed as any society in the past.
My notion of what the psychedelic experience is for is that we each must become like fishermen and go out onto the dark ocean of mind and let your nets down into that sea. And what you're after is not some behemoth that will tear through your nets, foul them, and drag you and your little boat, into the abyss, nor are what we're looking for a bunch of sardines that can slip through your net and disappear. Ideas like, have you ever noticed that your little finger exactly fits your nostril, and stuff like that. What we are looking for are middle-sized ideas that are not so small that they're trivial and not so large that they're incomprehensible, but middle-sized ideas that we can wrestle into our boat and take back to the folks on shore and have fish dinner. And every one of us, when we go into the psychedelic state, this is what we should be looking for. It's not for your elucidation. It's not part of your self-directed psychotherapy. You are an explorer, and you represent our species. And the greatest good you can do is to bring back a new idea, because our world is endangered by the absence of good ideas. Our world is in crisis because of the absence of consciousness. And so, to whatever degree any one of us can bring back a small piece of the picture and contribute it to the building of the new paradigm, then we participate in the redemption of the human spirit. And that, after all, is what it's really all about.
Within 5 years, the U.S. government classified it as a Schedule I drug, declaring it had no medical value.
Research hit a brick wall and stopped. And so that was the last research for about 40 years.
As many of you know, I am a great fan and spokesman for psilocybin, for the mushrooms. The mushrooms that I am so stoked on were discovered in 1953 by Gordon and Valentina Wasson in Huatla. Discovered in 53, made absolutely Schedule I illegal in 1966. 13 years was the window in which Western civilization had to study this compound and figure out what it was for. And they were just beginning to focus upon it when it was made illegal. LSD, discovered in 37, not brought into the scientific literature until 48, not generally available even in the laboratory until 1950, made totally illegal in 1966. 16-year window. Think about the fact that when LSD was legal, psychiatrists, professional researchers were consistently reporting cures of chronic alcoholism with one 500 gamma dose. One dose. Cure, like a 50% cure rate without recidivism for chronic alcoholism. Spectacular findings were being reported. When LSD swept through the scientific community, it for pharmacologists, psychotherapists, psychiatrists, it had the same kind of excitement and feeling of breakthrough that the splitting of the atom had for the physics community in the late 30s. Is an enormous arrow pointing, go this way. And you know what lies that way? Impoverishment, madness, degradation, and death. That's where the culture's pointing. You can see it. You can see it. Just look where we're headed.
If everyone on Earth aspires to the kind of lifestyle that you people can enjoy by virtue of having paid the money to be at a scene like this, there isn't enough glass, metal, and plastic in the planet to make that many celicas and jaguars and bluebirds and snowbirds and all the rest of this crap. So what is needed is an awakening. What is really interesting about the psychedelic experience is it shows you a mental universe that you not only never suspected existed, but that you could not have suspected existed. I don't think there's another way to it. I mean, I'm not ready to categorically say there's no other way to it, and occasionally, especially at gatherings like this, people grab me and assure me there are other ways to it. And they say, you know, if you just, I want you to meet Babaji. He's as good as psilocybin. And, oh, really? I want to meet this man. because I mean, let me say a little bit more about this. I would like to believe that in principle you could get to these places on the natch. Only in principle, however, because if some people say, well, you know, these things you describe on DMT and psilocybin, I can show you how to do that naturally. No, thank you. Are you kidding? Thank God I have the drug as a kind of marker so that I know when I'm getting close to that stuff. If I woke up one morning in that place and I couldn't tell myself I'd taken mushrooms, I would define myself as seriously discombobulated and wait to see what happens, you know? And people say, well, don't you think you ought to be able to do it by yourself? And I love this question because the answer is you can't do it by yourself. That's the entire message of the last 10,000 years of human history. The self is insufficient. The ego will not suffice. The only way you're ever going to get anywhere is you must humble yourself to the point where you admit that you can't do it unless you have help from someone whose idea of home is a cow flop. If you're willing to humble yourself to that degree, then maybe we can get somewhere. Obviously, if we're experiencing more change now in a year than we previously experienced in 1,000 years, we can propagate that trend into the future and see that a day will come when we will experience more change in an hour than we have experienced in the past 20, 30,000 years. A situation like that is unimaginable, so we call it a singularity, a place where the normal rules of modeling break down. Modern religions have anticipated the singularity by calling it the eschaton or the end of time. Technological communities have anticipated the singularity by thinking in terms of artificial intelligences or something like that. In whatever form it takes, we seem to be on the cusp of a dramatic evolutionary leap into a deeper order of complexity than biology or biology plus culture has been able to provide. We're on the brink of something truly awesome and unknown.
Many become less and less interested in what you and I might call the problems or affairs of the real world outside and emphasize for themselves the real world inside. There are all kinds of issues which arise at this point. one of which is, what happens if, at what is the critical level in a given society before we begin to have troubles in keeping the plows and machines going? The people who are inner-oriented will frequently say, the hell with the plows, and the machines are what got us here in the first place. They may be right. Nevertheless, what will happen to the society remains a problem.
Richard Blum at a California college forum on LSD. And in the audience, an expert not invited to speak. The man in the middle with glasses, Richard Alpert, one of the two Americans most often blamed or praised for the psychedelic revolution.
My reaction to being the two nights at Foothill College were that I've had, as I say, LSD over 300 times, and by the end of those 2 nights, it was like going to 2 horror movies. I was so scared I didn't know whether I'd ever be able to take LSD again. It really reminded me of 4 guys up there on the lecture platform, all of whom had had bad sessions and bad re-entries and had this terrible view of the whole world, you know, and all they could see were the problems and the fears for society, but none of the potential, none of the positive questions about what is man to do next and what opportunity might LSD hold. They're not even interested in that. They are so committed to the fact that this society is the way it is, and that's all you can expect. And that's what I'd call vested interest in the ongoing game. And if you have vested interest in the ongoing game, you are frightened by anything that might change it.
How did we get hung up this way? Because it's a social condition, you'd agree.
How did we get hung up this way? How did man get into this kind of cultural limits
yes,
of
this incredible assumption that society is as it is and has always been this way?
Well,
because that makes no sense at all the moment you say it, and yet people behave as if that were true.
Well, it's just like, for example, the fact, I was at a lecture the other day of Buckminster Fuller, and who's doing your dome for the World's Fair, I think, up in Canada. And he said, look, we now know there is enough to go around, all right? In other words, if we could truly collaborate with our fellow man, there would be enough to go around for the world. But none of us can break through our own models of the way the game goes enough to do the things necessary to bring about that realization. And it's only when there is enough that we can become back to we, both of us as subject, and experience the unity when we are truly collaborative about our resources. And man has come out of the jungle where there wasn't enough and where he fought for it, and he's built a whole ethic around not having enough. And now to be able to really shift that ethic is a very, you know, and the whole motivational pattern connected with it is a very difficult thing for him to do.
I'm reminded of a slogan or two I saw some students carrying once. One said, all wars are civil wars because all men are brothers. Right. And another one said, there is no they.
Right, exactly. And that's one of the components of the LSD experience, the understanding that there is no they. There's no other. It is all one. And it's really, what happens here is, there are a lot of experiments in psychology with figure ground. That is the relation of the background to what stands out, right? Now, in our culture, we've been trained for individual differences to stand out. So you look at each person, immediately it is brighter, dumber, older, younger, richer, poorer, and we make all these dimensional distinctions, put them in categories, and treat them that way. And we get so that we only see others as separate from ourselves in the ways in which they're separate. And one of the dramatic characteristics of the psychedelic experience is being with another person and suddenly seeing the ways in which they are like you, not different from you, and experiencing the fact, well, yes, indeed, we are brothers in the true sense of that which is essence in you and which is essence in me is indeed one.
What's this do to the free enterprise market system?
Well, what it does, if I understand it right, is it moves the basic motivation from an achievement, competitive, to a collaborative kind of enterprise, which means that I'm not working in order to beat you out, but you and I are working in order to both make it. Now, at this point, I'm aware that you're a separate individual from me. We're separate, but there's something similar, all right? Now, at this point, there is this start to break down of the separation, the separation between us. For example, I might look down, and this is an external hallucination. I will see my body disappear, right? Or see those ways in which I am different become like learned things that I wear, like this sweater. For example, PhD, what does that mean? All right, it means I got a certain kind of education, acquired a certain degree for being more educated than 0.1% of the world's population, or something like that, all right? And that assures me of something or other in society, all right? In fact, it's a garb I wear. If I had the gown and the cap, you know, that would be the external symbol of that same thing, right? Now, that gown is a psychological gown I wear, just like Richard Alpert is a gown I wear. You know, it's an identity that I've taken on. I wasn't born Richard Alpert. I was just born as a human being. And then I learned this whole business of who I am and whether I'm good or bad or achieving or not. All that's learned along the way. And you see all those learned things separate. So you start to have this dissociative experience of where all that you become is awareness, is a point of awareness. That's all that's left. And I remember the first time this happened to me, as professor went, and middle-class boy went, and pilot went, and all of my games were like going off into the distance. I got this terrible panic, because indeed, I was going to cease to exist. And I got the panic, which is the panic that precedes the psychological death, because indeed, Richard Alpert was dying at that point. And the panic was, no, stop, I've got to hold on to something so I'll know who I am. And Timothy, the wise old Timothy, always says things like, trust your nervous system.
Un hombre que ha dedicado su vida a esta experiencia es Ram Dass, originalmente profesor de Harvard, llamado Dr. Richard Alpert, especialmente después de asociarse con el Dr. Timothy Leary y Aldous Huxley y haber realizado una seria investigación sobre las sustancias alucinógenas. Su vida fue un viaje de descubrimiento hacia los estados alterados de conciencia. De joven, sus encuentros con seres iluminados de la India cambiaron radicalmente su vida. Estas personas iluminadas habían logrado, a través de la meditación, unir sus conciencias individuales con todo el campo de la conciencia. Vivían en niveles de experiencia distintos a los de la persona común. Tenían poderes y conocimiento de los reinos más elevados y vivían en estados que los llenaban de un éxtasis que superaba todo aquello que la vida normal pudiera ofrecer.
Yo era psicólogo. Hice mi doctorado en la Universidad de Stanford, en la que fui profesor. Luego lo fui en la Universidad de Harvard durante varios años. En los 60 me interesé por los químicos que alteran la mente, que cambian la forma en que uno piensa. Ya que era un estudioso de la mente, me interesaba mucho saber cómo era que la química de la mente afectaba la forma en que uno piensa y ve al mundo. Por lo tanto, comencé a experimentar yo mismo con algunas de esas plantas antiguas que habían sido usadas por los curanderos y por los profetas en varias tradiciones religiosas a través del tiempo. Las probé para ver qué podía aprender acerca de mi propia mente.
¿Usó químicos de origen vegetal?
Sí, de hecho eran llamadas teonacatl o la carne de los dioses. Es un hongo.
Cuando dice que fueron usadas por miles de años, ¿significa que estaban permitidas? ¿Eran algo que la sociedad podía usar libremente?
Es difícil saberlo, ya que no hay demasiados registros de ello, pero es a lo que llamamos los misterios eleusinos, por ejemplo, o los misterios antiguos. Empleaban algunas de estas plantas para alterar la conciencia en grandes grupos de personas dentro de la estructura social. Pero extrañamente se ha escrito muy poco sobre ello.
Quizás si muchas personas las utilizaban, esto haya influido sobre la sociedad.
Yo creo que sí. Creo que las utilizaban en un marco religioso más que en un marco político, social.
¿Qué sucedió luego de eso? ¿Usted
Trabajé con estos químicos unos 6 años y luego comencé a darme cuenta de que, si bien eran técnicas muy eficaces, sí, no me permitían integrar las experiencias que yo estaba teniendo con mi proceso normal de vida. Y sentí que tenía mucho más por aprender. Hazli, quien era parte de nuestra comunidad, nos enseñó el libro tibetano de los muertos, que era un antiguo texto tibetano para ayudar a las personas a retener la conciencia en el proceso de la muerte. Y eso me llevó a... Una vez que tuve todas estas experiencias internas, los modelos psicológicos occidentales que yo enseñaba en Harvard ya no explicaban qué eran mis propias experiencias internas.
¿Qué clase de experiencias internas tuvo?
Tenía experiencias en las que la mente conceptual estaba siendo anulada. Probablemente en la sinapsis, de un modo que me permitía ver al universo con inocencia y frescura. Es decir, cuando yo lo miro digo, hombre, porque tengo un concepto de hombre y estoy tomando pequeñas sombras, luces, marcos y las coloco en una persona. Todo esto lo hago con la mente. No tengo idea de lo que pueda haber allí afuera. Todo lo que sé es que mi mente conceptual se proyecta hacia afuera y constantemente selecciona un infinito conjunto de estímulos que nos rodean. De modo que para anular esas cosas conceptuales y volver a ver con inocencia, sin rótulos, ya que cuando vamos por la calle y vemos un árbol, una parte de nuestra mente dice árbol, lo rotulamos para poder tener control. Y al deshacernos de esos rótulos o anularlos, en cierto modo vemos cuántos somos. Cualquier estructura que tengamos para observar el mundo queda empobrecida una vez que vemos más allá de ello. Así que fui a Oriente, a la India, Pakistán, Irán y todos esos sitios, y que allí había muchos mapas. Eran mapas muy antiguos, libros. El Mahabharata, cosas por el estilo, el Bhagavad Gita en la India, eran libros en los que se describían estos estados internos de un modo en que la psicología occidental no lo hacía.
¿En estos escritos antiguos describían las mismas experiencias que estaba teniendo usted?
Oh, sí, eran extraordinarios. Una vez, días después de haber tenido una sesión con los hongos, estuve con Aldous leyendo el libro tibetano de los muertos. Y recuerdo haber leído un pasaje que describía la experiencia que yo había tenido 2 noches atrás, a la cual en ese momento yo había catalogado como inefable o indescriptible, ya que mi mente conceptual de Occidente no había organizado al universo como para lograr explicar esas cosas. Y ese texto de 2500 años de antigüedad describía perfectamente lo que yo había experimentado 2 noches antes.
Vaya, es increíble. Estas experiencias que tuvo, ¿fueron únicamente utilizando los hongos? ¿O también usó otros químicos?
Utilicé toda clase de lo que llamamos psicodélicos o químicos que alteran la mente. Había peyote, que era usado por los indios americanos. Sí, también el llamado mescalina. Había algunas LSD 25, toda clase de letras, DMT, ayahuasca, ibogaine, yaje. En ese momento yo estaba interesado en... Intentábamos articular la forma en que el marco de la mente y el marco del ambiente, sumados a la naturaleza del químico, interactuaban entre sí para brindar diferentes clases de experiencias. Intentábamos trazar un mapa del terreno.
¿Tuvieron éxito?
Bien, no creo que haya éxito. Creo que es un proceso en el cual hay más sofisticación de la que había, pero afortunadamente hay una gran parte que continúa siendo un misterio.
¿Qué es lo que impide que las personas sean capaces de experimentar estas cosas de modo natural durante su vida cotidiana?
Bien, lo que les impide hacerlo en la vida cotidiana es su modelo de quiénes son y de lo que es posible. Es interesante, todos experimentamos este tipo de cosas todo el tiempo. Es el estado natural de nuestra mente. Aprendimos una estrategia para ver el universo y a nuestras propias experiencias que hace que los ingredientes de nuestra conciencia, que son exactamente de lo que se trata esta sabiduría mística, sean irrelevantes. Pero la descartamos, la rechazamos, la consideramos un error o irrelevante.
¿Está siempre allí y es accesible?
Así es para todos y eso es lo más extraño. Sucede, por ejemplo, cuando vamos al cine y la película es tan fascinante que cuando encienden las luces no sabemos a dónde estamos. Tras un momento decimos, sí, estoy en el cine. Este podría ser un ejemplo. Estamos en un lugar y luego regresamos. O cuando decimos, no sé en qué estaba pensando, o mi mente se puso en blanco. No tenemos los recursos para jugar con estos lugares, ya que cuando nuestra conciencia está alterada, una de las reacciones más comunes es decir, conozco esto, me resulta muy familiar, estoy aquí todo el tiempo, pero simplemente no sé.
Using psychedelics to clean myself out. Tim was using it more to clean the society out. The psychedelics opened my mind to whole new spaces of myself and the universe. I remember thinking the psychedelic session, with mushrooms. What I'm experiencing now is home. It's a side of me that I never experienced through psychology. It's like a new level of my being. And I got so excited. LSD, it's got me to see my stroke in a different way. And I can be happy with my life. And people, oh my goodness, getting happy about a stroke, that's LSD.
Dr. Timothy Leary, once a clinical psychologist and Harvard professor, now, by his own description, a visionary prophet. Others have called him the man most responsible for the North American crisis over LSD.
We teach the science and art of ecstasy. We teach people how to turn on or how to go out of their minds. By turn on, we mean to tune in, to get beyond your routine ways of thinking and acting and experiencing. And we often say that we're teaching people how to use their head. The point is that in order to use your head, you have to go out of your mind. You have to go out of all of the static, symbolic ways in which you think, experience. Most of us, most of the time, see the world through a very small set of filters. You use perhaps 1/1,000,000th of the potential energy and wisdom that's inside your head. So then people say, no matter what they say about LSD, we always translate it into using your head. So if they say LSD is dangerous, we say, your consciousness is dangerous.
You're not saying LSD cannot be misused, though, surely.
Well, of course, it's a form of energy, and it releases energy. And any form of energy which man has discovered can be used for ill or for good. It can be used to gain power, control over other people, or it can be used to help people develop and grow. When you take LSD, you don't go out and get involved in fights, or you don't go out and get involved in activity. It's an internal experience. There's no scientific evidence that LSD causes any such...
any distortion of the sort of root, say, suicide statistic, or the root...
or mental hospital commitments.
Mental hospital commitments.
There's no evidence that LSD causes it. But when you take LSD and your conscience expanded, the number of possibilities and the number of perspectives dramatically multiplies. And then you're in real ontological confusion. That's why we always have urged people, don't take LSD unless you're very well prepared, unless you're specifically prepared to go out of your mind. Don't take it unless you have someone that's very experienced with you to guide you through it. And don't take it unless you are ready to have your perspective on yourself and life dramatically change, because you're going to be a different person, and you should be ready to face this possibility.
What is LSD and what does it do?
The effect is somewhat like looking through a microscope. Suddenly, when you look through a microscope, you discover that there's an invisible world around you that you hadn't known about before you did it. The same thing is true of the psychedelic drug. You're aware of processes that are going on inside your own brain. You're aware of the exchange of energies that are going on between your sense organs and the energies around them that you weren't aware of before.
What if most of what you've been told in the media about psychedelics is wrong? Have we been misled about the medicinal properties of psychedelics, just like we were misled about medicinal marijuana? More than 40 years ago, governments worldwide made psychedelics illegal, calling them dangerous drugs. But the most dangerous drugs on Earth are alcohol and nicotine, and both are legal. The law is not based on science. For thousands of years, native cultures have used psychedelics not as drugs, but as medicines. And science is on their side. The caffeine in your coffee is more toxic on your body than psilocybin mushrooms. The science shows these non-addictive substances actually slow down activity in areas of the brain overactive in people with depression. Psilocybin has cured anxiety, depression, cluster headaches, and smoking addictions. Psilocybin may even lead to neurogenesis, or the regrowth of brain cells. In the 1950s, doctors in Canada used LSD to cure alcoholism, with a 45% success rate. Even Bill Wilson, who founded Alcoholics Anonymous, used LSD to cure his debilitating depression. Wilson unsuccessfully tried to get LSD added to the 12-step program, saying its ability to spark introspection and spirituality was the essential first step. DMT, or dimethyltryptamine, is a psychedelic compound produced profusely in nature and even inside the human brain. In one study, Dr. Rick Strassman proved DMT can be safely given to people. Those who participated in Strassman's study reported having intense spiritual experiences and communicating with a higher intelligence. When people consume these medicines, they enter a dreamlike state where a lifetime of traumatic memories are unlocked and processed, detaching the fear and emotion from the memories and creating new neural pathways. Some describe psychedelics as 30 years of therapy in one night.
What is the psychedelic experience? Aldous Huxley believed it was the fundamental craving of the human spirit, a desire to transcend the survival-biased filter of perception, just for a moment, and catch a glimpse of reality beyond the bars of our cognitive prison. The psychedelic experience does not require drugs. Religious history and spiritual tradition are built upon these sublime moments. Messiahs hear the voice of God after a 40-day fast. Holy men, having isolated themselves in a cave, suddenly emerge with visionary truth. But to indulge in a 40-day fast to reach this heightened state is like burning your house down to bake a loaf of bread. 1 hour in a saltwater isolation tank quiets the noise of sensation until awareness becomes the mirror that reveals you to yourself. A single session of holotropic breathing restricts our mental chatter long enough to plunge you into the zero state of visionary inspiration. Then, There are the earth movers, the plant medicines at the core of many religious sacraments, which according to Graham Hancock, were integral to inspiring the earliest known art in caves throughout Europe. These plants are technologies. In a recent placebo-controlled study, 18 healthy adults were given psilocybin, the active ingredient in magic mushrooms. 94% of those who received the drug said the experiment was one of their top 5 most positive experiences. 40% said it was the single most meaningful experience of their life. Ayahuasca, long called the master medicine by the healers of the rainforest, offers an experience with the most visually powerful and mysterious of all molecules endogenous to life, dimethyltryptamine. Iboga, the root of an African shrub, confronts you with the voice of your own inner truth for 24 waking hours, and is being used to treat heroin addiction with relapse rates reported at a shockingly low 7%. Why doesn't the world embrace these technologies? Terence McKenna has an answer. It takes courage to take psychedelics. Real courage. Your stomach clenches, your palms grow damp because you know this is real. This is going to work. Not in 12 years, not in 20 years, but in an hour. What can the psychedelic experience be? The cloth that wipes clean our lens of perception. The compass that points true north to our life calling. The lantern in the catacombs of our subconscious. The sword stroke that unfetters the muse. The sunlight that dispels the shadows of our past. Or simply a respite of eternity in the fast-flowing river of time. I've been to the other side and stared unflinching into the eyes of my eternal soul, seeing a matrix of 1,000 possible destinies. I've witnessed the span of our current universe contained in an unceasing heartbeat, each world a single blood cell, and each contraction a new existence for life itself. I've learned of humility on the back of a dragon, felt the terminal extreme of heaven and hell in the marrow of my bones, died and been reborn anew. What will your psychedelic experience be? Courage to you all.
We have had a mind programming exercise called the War on Drugs for the last 40 years, which has been designed to create an internal enemy in our societies and convince people that there are these evil, wicked groups who are doing these terrible, sinful things, smoking these drugs and doing this and that. And there's a very dark image has been created around it, and people get very upset irrationally about this whole issue. And actually, what's been forgotten in all of this, and for me has become, I regard it as an extremely important issue, is that when the state sends us to prison for essentially exploring our own consciousness. This is a grotesque abuse of human rights. It's a fundamental wrong. If I, as an adult, am not, sovereign over my own consciousness, then I'm absolutely not sovereign over anything. I can't claim any kind of freedom at all. And what has happened over the last 40 or 50 years under the disguise of the war on drugs is that we have been persuaded to hand over the keys of our consciousness to the state. The most precious, the most intimate, the most sapient part of ourselves, the state now has the keys. And furthermore, they've persuaded us that that's in our interests. This is a very dangerous situation.
One of the things that always freaks me out is the people's inability to even consider that there's a difference between a psychedelic experience on drugs and a drug that's going to ruin your life.
Yeah,
they're not even interested in considering that possibility. There's two different. It's like the same thing. It's like someone resisting.
Definitely, and that again, that's the result. Let's remember that
programming
funded with our money. Our taxpayers' money, there has been 40 years of programming, more than 40 years on this subject to make us all develop a kind of aversion, a fear, a hatred, the horror of drugs.
Very important it is to bring about in the human mind the radical revolution. The crisis is a crisis in consciousness, a crisis that cannot anymore accept the old norms, the old patterns, the ancient traditions, and considering what the world is now, with all their misery, conflict, destructive brutality, aggression, and so on, man is still as he was. He's still brutal, violent, aggressive, acquisitive, competitive, and he has built a society along these lines. What we are trying in all these discussions and talks here is to see if we cannot radically bring about a transformation of the mind. Not accept things as they are, but to understand it, to go into it, to examine it, give your heart and your mind with everything that you have to find out, a way of living differently. But that depends on you and not somebody else. Because in this there is no teacher, no pupil, there is no leader, there is no guru, there is no master, no savior. You yourself are the teacher and the pupil, you are the master, you are the guru, you are the leader. You are everything. And to understand is to transform what it is.
El doctor Albert Hofmann, químico de profesión y naturalista por afición. Lo que se dice un mito de nuestro tiempo, un hombre de alcance, fama y talla universal. Por muchas cosas, pero sobre todo porque el doctor Hofmann sintetizó allá por los años 30 en los laboratorios Sandoz de Basilea la diatilamida del ácido lisérgico, descubrió lo que hoy conocemos con el nombre de LSD y provocó uno de los mayores fenómenos o cataclismos, según se mide, culturales y contraculturales de la historia universal. A este nuevo Pitágoras, a este octavo sabio de Grecia, tiene en estos momentos 84 verdes años entre pecho y espalda y, como van a comprobar enseguida, está hecho una rosa. Es suizo de habla alemana y en alemán. Vamos a entendernos con él gracias a los servicios de traducción simultánea. En el otoño de 1977, una muchedumbre llenaba el aula magna de la Universidad de California en Santa Cruz y sus inmediaciones, con el rostro pegado a las ventanas o el oído atento a los altavoces que difundían las ponencias de distintas celebridades en un simposio internacional. Un hombre de mediana edad, aparentemente, sencillo traje gris y corbata, se abrió paso con dificultad hacia la mesa, donde distintos micrófonos florecían como ramas de un arbusto metálico. Cuando las ovaciones se serenaron, el llamado padre de la era psicodélica desplegó unas cuartillas y empezó diciendo: «Temo decepcionarles, quizá esperaban a un gurú. En vez de eso se les presenta un químico». Hofmann nació en el cantón suizo de Aargau en 1906, en el seno de una familia humilde que quedó desamparada por la muerte prematura del padre. Pasó su adolescencia en el banco de taller de una fábrica como primogénito responsable de los suyos, pero le fascinaba la investigación científica y cursó simultáneamente estudios de química en Zúrich, que terminó en un tiempo récord y con premio extraordinario, culminando esa carrera con una tesis doctoral que hizo época al describir por primera vez la hasta entonces enigmática estructura de la quitina. Los años duros quedaban atrás y, siendo fiel a una vocación ya sentida desde niño, la de conocer los principios activos de las plantas, aceptó un puesto de investigador en el pequeño laboratorio que era Sandoz por entonces. Allí permaneció hasta su jubilación, con hallazgos que contribuyeron notablemente a hacer de esa empresa un gigante farmacológico mundial. Fruto de esos años fueron descubrimientos que Hofmann llama comerciales, tranquilizantes y analgésicos, alternados con otros que le permitirían desarrollar fármacos todavía insustituibles en obstetricia y neurología. Investigaba el misterioso hongo llamado cornezuelo o ergot cuando topó con la dietilamida del ácido lisérgico o LSD, un derivado semisintético que absorbió inadvertidamente. Iba en bicicleta. Y aparte iba en bicicleta después de haberlo absorbido inadvertidamente y le sucedieron cosas muy curiosas. Es un viaje en bicicleta célebre, quizá el más célebre de los viajes en bicicleta. Decía, mejor dicho, escotado, que este derivado semisintético fue descubierto por Hofmann y a partir de entonces no solo su vida, sino la de innumerables otros experimentó una profunda modificación. Junger y Aldous Huxley, también la CIA y la psiquiatría institucional se apasionaron con el producto, unos creyendo que contribuía a ensanchar la cordura y otros que permitía desatar a voluntad la demencia. En cualquier caso, nadie discutió que esa sustancia y varias más de su especie, descubiertas por él durante los años 50, eran el hallazgo psicofarmacológico más importante del siglo. Doctor honoris causa en Harvard, Zúrich, Estocolmo y Berlín, a mediados de la década siguiente fue invitado por la Academia Sueca a pronunciar el ciclo de conferencias previas al otorgamiento de su galardón, que quedaría indefinidamente pospuesto cuando el conjunto de prometedores hallazgos se convirtió de la noche a la mañana en amenaza mortal para el orden establecido. Instado por el Pentágono a que colaborase en sus proyectos de armas químicas y por la inteligencia contracultural a hacer precisamente lo contrario, todo ello a partir de las mismas sustancias, comenzó para él, para Hofmann, una época de perplejidad solo apaciguada con la distancia crítica que otorga el paso del tiempo. Hasta aquí un poco larga, pero creo que era necesaria la presentación de Albert Hofmann. Debería de tomar la palabra el doctor Hofmann para decirnos en qué consiste el camino de Eleusis o el camino a Eleusis, título de este volumen escrito a la limón con el etnomicólogo Gordon Wasson y con el helenista Rack. Doctor Hofmann, ese camino a Eleusis, ese camino de Eleusis, ¿hacia dónde conduce? ¿Cómo se sigue? ¿Cuál es su meta?
Me alegra mucho tener ocasión de poder hablar sobre LSD sirviéndome de Eleusis. A lo largo de milenios, Eleusis ha sido el centro espiritual más importante de la antigüedad griega. Los misterios de Eleusis tienen su origen en la diosa del grano, la diosa Demeter. Ella originó estos misterios como agradecimiento de haber vuelto a encontrar a su hija Perséfone. Perséfone había sido secuestrado por Hades, el dios del Tártaro. Y como muestra de agradecimiento, la diosa del grano regaló a la humanidad los cereales, así como los misterios de Eleusis. En estos misterios se enseñaron una serie de reflexiones sobre la vida y la muerte del hombre. Se sirvieron del ejemplo del mismo grano del centeno. El grano del centeno que es plantado en la tierra muere allí para dar pie a nueva vida. Forman parte de estos misterios toda una serie de personajes conocidos en la antigüedad: Píndar, Cicerone, Platón. Todos estos personajes fueron allí en peregrinaje y les estaba prohibido decir lo que ellos habían visto. Era un secreto. Pero lo que sí les estaba permitido era contar cuál era la importancia que para ellos tenía el misterio de Eleusis. Y de forma unánime, todos manifestaron que allí les había sido permitido comprender los mismos inicios de nuestra vida y también habían logrado vislumbrar el final de la vida. Habían empezado a entender de dónde venían y a dónde iban. Se sabía que los adeptos que peregrinaban a Eleusis, después de largos preparativos, al final de su viaje recibieron una bebida sagrada. Esta bebida es la que les proporcionaba la iluminación. Y de siempre había sido un problema para los investigadores y para la ciencia el averiguar los ingredientes de esta bebida sagrada capaz de iluminar la mente humana. Se formularon las más diversas hipótesis y teorías y yo, conjuntamente con unos amigos, con el señor Mosen y el señor Röck, he formulado la hipótesis que tenía que haber una combinación del tipo de LSD que estaba contenida en esta bebida sagrada. Llegamos a esta conclusión por la razón siguiente. Cerca de Eleusis, y en realidad en todo el ámbito mediterráneo, crece entre la hierba salvaje un cornezuelo de centeno muy especial. Y en este cornezuelo de centeno nosotros descubrimos sustancias y combinaciones muy cercanas al LSD. En realidad solo están caracterizados por una variante química muy muy poco importante. Y por consiguiente parece probable que los sacerdotes de Eleusis fuesen recogiendo este cornezuelo de centeno, lo tenían cerca, no tenían más que triturarlo, y es muy probable que sea esta la sustancia que se mezclaba en la bebida sagrada para convertirla en una bebida perfectamente psicodélica. Por otra parte, hemos dicho que la diosa Deméter era la diosa del grano, y esta es una razón de más por la que el principio activo de Eleusis posiblemente proceda del grano. Hasta ahora, por parte del mundo de la ciencia, todavía no ha habido ninguna voz de oposición en contra de esta teoría. Parece ser, por consiguiente, que esta hipótesis es más que probable.
No podemos ir, dice el doctor Hofmann, por la vida haciendo nuestros negocios habituales en este extraordinario estado de ánimo. Sin embargo, a veces entrar en ese extraordinario estado de ánimo puede ayudarnos a mirar con más ecuanimidad, con más serenidad, hasta lo más cotidiano, hasta la vida puramente práctica. ¿Cuáles son nuestros verdaderos intereses concretos? Al leer esto, yo pensé que quería saber un poquito más, un poco más, de que no podemos ir por la vida en este extraordinario estado de ánimo, y sin embargo no podemos ir por la vida sin que alguna vez tengamos este extraordinario estado de ánimo. Ya.
Sí, naturalmente. Bueno, yo creo que lo que se percibe bajo la influencia de LSD es lo que en otros términos, sobre todo en terminología religiosa, se ha calificado como iluminación. Se trata de una vivencia del mundo y también del propio yo, que difiere de la conciencia cotidiana en el sentido de que la barrera entre el yo y el tú, entre el yo y el entorno, que esta barrera desaparece, poco más o menos. Este pensamiento dualista con el que funcionamos de forma habitual es superado y, por así decir, uno se adentra en la creación. Se tiene la sensación de comprender que la creación, o se tiene la sensación de comprenderse a uno mismo mucho mejor, se experimenta la creación no por más tiempo solo con la razón, sino con la emoción, con el corazón. Y esto es lo característico de los visionarios, es lo que ellos describen. Quizás no sea exactamente lo mismo, pero es una sensación muy parecida con un significado igualmente parecido.
Mi pregunta se centraría en torno a una persona para mí muy querida, que en mi adolescencia fue muy importante para mí como lector, que es Aldous Huxley. El doctor Hofmann conoció bien a Huxley, incluso tuvo, fue la persona que le proporcionó y que le introdujo, digamos, en el tema de la apertura de las puertas de percepción, a lo cual Huxley dedicó tantas páginas importantes, y creo que finalmente incluso le asistió en el momento de su muerte, al final como Huxley quería. Me gustaría que si brevemente él pudiera contarnos algo de su relación con Huxley, yo se lo agradecería mucho.
A mí me impresionó profundamente Huxley. 3 años antes de su muerte, en 1960, Huxley me llamó por teléfono al laboratorio pidiéndome una entrevista y un posterior almuerzo. A mí me alegró mucho esta invitación porque ya tenía conocimiento de sus obras, Las puertas de la percepción y Heaven and Hell. Y así efectivamente nos reunimos en Zúrich y él me contó que estaba trabajando en su novela Island. Y en esta novela decía, se mencionaba una droga muy especial. En esta isla se describe cómo un contorno antiguo es impregnado por la tecnología moderna. Un científico llega a esta cultura antigua y esta, por así decir, entra en un matrimonio con la tecnología moderna. Y en esta cultura hay una droga que juega un papel fundamental, la Moksha-Medizin. Se trata de la llamada medicina de la iluminación. Y esta medicina, en esta cultura utópica, es una medicina que se administra en 3 ocasiones en la vida. La primera vez en el tránsito de la niñez a la pubertad, una segunda vez en la crisis de la mediana edad y finalmente poco antes de la muerte en esta gran transición. A continuación, cuando Huxley terminó su libro, me lo regaló y me lo dedicó. Escribió a Dr. Hofmann, al descubridor original de la Moksha-Medizina. Y efectivamente, Huxley, aquello que describió en su novela, es lo que él ha vivido en su propia vida. Cuando ya estaba en el lecho de muerte, no hay que olvidar que padeció un cáncer muy doloroso. Ya no era capaz de hablar. Pues en el lecho de muerte, como digo, escribió unas notas para que las leyera su mujer, indicando 0,1 miligramos de LSD y M. Su mujer sabía lo que significaba. Ella le preparó esta inyección y él murió en paz. Esta experiencia tenía algo conmovedora porque con ella Huxley mostraba que lo que él había descrito en su obra como un literato, como filósofo, era algo que él estaba dispuesto a vivir en su propia vida.
A mí me interesa enormemente el señor Hofmann porque hasta el LSD yo había creído que el conocimiento consistía, en leer libros, en hablar con personas ilustradas y por tanto ir acumulando información. Con el LSD yo me di cuenta que el conocimiento, aparte de ir llenando el cerebro, podía ser poner el cerebro en otro estado. Es decir, yo creo que a veces se evoluciona más si uno pasa de un computador a otro más grande o de un programa a otro que llenando el mismo computador de más y más información. Es ese salto cualitativo el que desde luego me interesó enormemente al probar el LSD. Es decir, el cerebro se convierte en otra cosa, funciona de otra manera, parece que tiene muchísimas más conexiones neuronales. Y yo le quería preguntar si él pudiera explicar de una manera accesible al público en general, pues qué pasa, químicamente o neurofisiológicamente en el cerebro cuando uno toma sustancias de este tipo. ¿Cuál es el mecanismo que hace que el cerebro se transforme en otra cosa, llegue a otro estado de funcionamiento?
El LSD y también todas las sustancias afines, sustancias, por ejemplo, procedentes de las drogas mexicanas, mescalina, psilocibina, por ejemplo. Estas sustancias tienen una estructura química que está muy relacionada con los llamados neurotransmisores, hormonas cerebrales muy normales y que juegan un papel muy importante en la estructura química de nuestra propia psique. Se puede explicar el proceso de la manera siguiente. El LSD y los otros productos psicodélicos ejercen una función estimulante para la función cerebral. Actúan en las más diversas direcciones. La vivencia emocional es una de las vivencias que se estimula. Se estimulan también las percepciones, los colores se vuelven más intensos, la audición también se ve estimulado, prácticamente toda la percepción sensorial aumenta, se intensifica. Y la experimentación de todas estas impresiones procedentes del entorno, a su vez, se potencian una vez más. Todo ello lleva a una percepción completamente diferente a la percepción cotidiana. Como ya he dicho, se tiene la sensación de entrar en un nivel de realidad que hasta ahora solo se podía percibir desde el exterior. Ahora se vivencia desde el interior. Pero para contestar a la pregunta, la explicación de por qué se producen estos efectos a través de estas sustancias, pues se explica por su afinidad con las sustancias y hormonas cerebrales, con sustancias que están presentes en el cerebro. De no existir esta afinidad, sería muy difícil comprender por qué afectan hasta este punto la estructura química de nuestra psique.
Sí, bueno, Huxley decía que era como si se levantaran unos filtros, es decir, cuando estos radicales que se parecen a la serotonina y a la acetilcolina se ponen en las sinapsis neuronales, parece que haya como un levantamiento de filtros, ¿no? Que normalmente la percepción normal está mucho más sometida, mucho más rutinarizada, espesa, como si hubiera, pues eso, realmente unas pantallas, unos filtros que fueran los que nos mantienen en este estado, y que al entrar estas sustancias, estos filtros se levantan. ¿Esto químicamente cómo sucede?
Bueno, creo que no se puede explicar desde un punto de vista químico. Aquí estamos más bien ante una metáfora. Además, Huxley utilizó otra metáfora. Él dijo, normalmente nuestras sensaciones y nuestro entorno tiene que ser filtrado. Si nosotros pudiéramos evidenciar todo lo que nos llega, no podíamos procesarlo. Necesitamos una válvula. Se trata de una válvula muy estrecha en nuestra conciencia cotidiana, y esta válvula es la que se abre a través de estas sustancias. Somos capaces de recibir mucho más de lo que nos llega. Esta es la metáfora que él utiliza, y es también el mismo sentido en realidad que la metáfora del filtro, pero a mí me gusta más la de la válvula.
Me gustaría, de ser posible, doctor Hofmann, volver al tema de Eleusis en relación al tema de lo sagrado y lo profano. Aquello maravilloso que veían los peregrinos a Eleusis solo pudiera ser sagrado en la medida que fuera colectivo, ritual, trascendente y no individual y en cierto modo profano. Es que la experiencia capital que provocan las drogas tiene que estar ligada a lo sagrado. Es necesario.
En primer lugar, quisiera decir, hay que diferenciar entre diferentes tipos de drogas. Hay drogas que son sumamente peligrosas. Hay drogas que producen la adicción, la heroína, las anfetaminas, los opiáceos. Son drogas que justamente por provocar la adicción y la utilización crónica producen un deterioro físico y psíquico. En cambio, la LSD y los otros productos psicodélicos no provocan adicción y son poco tóxicos. No hay que clasificarlos realmente como drogas. Aldous Huxley ha dicho que estas sustancias nunca deben denominarlas como drogas para no incluirlas en este conjunto de sustancias problemáticas. Con ello no quiero decir que estas drogas carezcan de peligro. Esta es la razón por la que en Eleusis se presentan en un marco restringido. Esta es la razón por la que los indios, por ejemplo, que siguen utilizando estas drogas en la actualidad, lo hacen a modo de plantas sagradas solo destinadas al culto religioso, porque cuando no se está preparado para lo que a uno le sucede bajo la influencia de estas sustancias, pues uno no es capaz de superar esta experiencia desde un punto de vista psicológico. Para el no iniciado, la vivencia que se produce es tan abrumadora, esta experiencia que consiste en separarse del mundo habitual para adentrarse en un mundo mucho más complejo, mucho más profundo para una persona no preparada. La consecuencia puede ser un profundo shock psíquico, un derrumbamiento traumático. Este es el peligro de estas sustancias. Tienen que utilizarse en un marco ceremonioso. Por esto, en una primera fase, me parece conveniente que estas sustancias se separaran de las otras drogas que provocan adicción y se deberían devolver a los psiquiatras. Me parece que debería ser un primer paso. Para mí la vivencia de la LSD ha sido un abrir de mis propios ojos. Yo he tenido de repente mayor conciencia de que la creación puede vivenciarse de un modo mucho más grande, mucho más hermoso de cómo la solemos percibir. Es un estado de estimulación y de un verdadero éxtasis, pero hay que volver. No se puede permanecer en este estado extático, estimulado. No podemos vivir nuestra vida normal en este estado. Para hablar en palabras de Huxley, tenemos que volver a cerrar las válvulas, tenemos que volver a afrontar nuestros problemas cotidianos. Pero es importante saber que detrás de la barrera de nuestra vida cotidiana se oculta un mundo mucho más amplio, mucho más profundo y divino.
Doctor Hofmann, muchos de los psiquiatras, precisamente occidentales, después de la relativa permisividad de los años 60, cerraron filas, no sé si con mucho conocimiento de causa, contra el LSD y sustancias parecidas, y nos avisaron sobre el riesgo de destrucción de neuronas, de destrucción de cromosomas y, en fin, otros componentes genéticos. ¿Qué hay de verdad y qué hay de leyenda interesada en este ponernos sobre aviso a propósito de estos peligros? Bueno, estas publicaciones indicando de que LSD trastorna la masa del globo terráqueo y por ello influye negativamente en los cromosomas, pues es una afirmación errónea como se ha mostrado científicamente.
no se han podido demostrar secuelas físicas. Como ya he dicho, el peligro radica de que la vivencia psicológicamente profunda de una realidad distinta sea una experiencia que por una psique determinada no sea superada. No ha habido ningún tipo de peligro físico. Se han tomado centenares de dosis de LSD por un mismo individuo sin que se haya producido ningún daño físico. Cuando se toma solo 3 veces la cantidad de heroína de la que es necesario para obtener su efecto habitual, pues el individuo muere. Si bebo 10 veces más alcohol del que me hace falta para producir el efecto deseado, también muero. Sin embargo, de LSD se ha llegado a tomar 100 veces la cantidad necesaria sin que se produzca ningún daño físico. Lo que sí ha ocurrido es que se han producido muertes como consecuencia del estado profundo de confusión de la conciencia que se produce en un individuo no preparado. Una vez más, LSD forma parte de las llamadas drogas sagradas, sagradas en el sentido de que hacen falta los preparativos necesarios, hace falta un respeto. Y vuelvo una vez más a Eleusis. Estas drogas se tienen que administrar tal como se administraron en Eleusis. Me parece que incluso puede ser un verdadero ejemplo de cómo manejar estas sustancias en nuestro tiempo.
Doctor, es que, perdona, una cosa brevísima. Tú, a tu divina edad, ¿sigues experimentando con estas sustancias en tu cuerpo y en tu alma?
No. Todo lo que LSD me ha podido dar, ya me lo ha dado, y ahora intento vivir de acuerdo con estas vivencias. LSD me ha abierto los ojos, he sido capaz de comprender, y ahora intento mantener mis ojos abiertos sin LSD, mantener la conciencia abierta sin LSD, seguir comprendiendo el milagro de la vida, del milagro y misterio del ser y del devenir.